Hello, my name is Jason Reichl, and you're listening to Risk Management Brick by Brick. I'm fascinated with people who are helping build and maintain the physical world around us. On each episode of this podcast, we'll dive in with a risk manager, speak to them about how technology plays a role in this process.
Thank you for joining me on Brick by Brick. I appreciate you. Why don't you give the audience a little bit about your background? It's very interesting to me. You're not from the area of the world that you're making an impact in. So why don't you give the rundown?
So if I want to present myself, so my name is Hugues Bertin. I'm French, but I am an actuary, so I like to talk about risk. But I live in South America for the last 20 years. I lived 15 years in Argentina, and right now I am living in Santiago of Chile for the last eight years. So, and I have a very good overview about Latin American market from Mexico until Argentina. So I think that we can share about that.
Yeah, let's go into that. Most of our audience is American,
yeah,
right? North American. I think what they'd be interested in understanding is a little bit about what's the climate like? How is risk the same from an actuarial perspective in Latin America as it is in America? How is it different? And then what's it look like 10 years from now? Like, let's paint that picture.
In my perspective, risk is very different if you compare Europe, US, and Latin America, okay? Only in order to understand a little bit about the data, the level of penetration rate in insurance is 3% in Latin America. If you compare with 10% in Europe and US. Yeah. So what is the situation? For every impact of risk, for example, climate, social impact, the impact for the people is very huge. So, for example, in the case of Mexico, and in the case of earthquake, for example, I live in Santiago of Chile. We lived with the earthquake. So earthquake, fire are very huge risk and depends on every country.
Yeah. So you've been in Latin America now for, you said, 20 years, right?
No, in Latin America?
Yeah.
20 years.
20 years, right.
3 years, yeah.
So what was it like 20 years ago? Where is it at now? And then where do you think it's going 5 years from now?
Yeah, about the trend, about the risk, yeah?
Yeah. What do you take into account now that you didn't 5 years ago, and what do you think that you're going to have?
Yeah, for sure. Latin American market is very interesting because the growth is huge. So if you compare 20 years ago and today, the movement and the middle class has changed a lot, okay? Insurance market has not changed a lot, okay? What are the main impact for the future? I think that climate is a huge impact for the culture, for the future. From the other side, Latin America is a huge opportunity because of forest, because of nature. So I think that in the next 20 years could be the next Pullman for the future, for the oxygen, for the planet. Yeah. So it's quite interesting to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. What are you working on? Like, let's go through, you do like all these different things we're talking about, VC, consulting. Let's go through, what are you working on?
Yeah, in Latin America, my job is three things. First one is advisory and training for insurance sector, okay, to train people. For example, we train more than 250 talents in Latin America, okay, with my partner from TDI, the digital insurer. So we are train people in order to understand the trends and the future of insurance, first. The second one is VC fund. Our VC fund, we invested in InsurTech in Latin America, in North America, and in Europe a little bit. Okay, we have this VC fund based in Miami. Okay, and the last part, that is the non-profit part, I am president of AIP. AIP is the Pan American InsurTech Alliance. That is an association of 250 members, 45 carriers, okay, and InsurTech in order to transform the insurance sector in Latin America. Yeah. So that's...
What about the Latin American market do you have to penetrate it from so many different positions in order to influence both policy, it seems like, influence, the ability to work across Latin America as a whole, right? Because I'm guessing that's a big factor of this, right? And trying to bring sort of like this approach. What works from the American insurance industry and what does not?
I think that Latin American industry is a full sea of opportunity. It's a blue ocean because you can change everything: life insurance, P&C insurance, commercial insurance. So you can imagine that, for example, in the main countries, car insurance is not mandatory. The level of penetration of car insurance is 30%. So for a European or for a US guy, a Canadian, that don't make sense. So you can imagine that when you talk with people in the street, there is no insurance. Right. Other things, for example, in a building, home insurance is not mandatory. Right. So if your neighbor has a fire, your impact directly is not insured. Wow. Right. You must change everything. The blue ocean in Latin America is...
That's what I've always wondered, because in Latin America, I know the culture is smaller business, right? Independent, you're working in your business.
Yeah.
If something happens to your business, you take care of it.
Yeah.
You have no debt, you have no loans, you have no infrastructure, right? Like, that must be a challenge to try to then bring commercial insurance or even, personal insurance into that space.
Yeah.
And convince people that there's a middle class that needs to protect their wealth and protect their businesses, right? Is that something that it's mostly outside of Latin America, businesses coming in that are buying into that? Or is that a changing opinion on Latin American business owners and how they're operating?
Yes, I'm not sure if I can contest you, but answer you, but my vision is we observe a high level of correlation between penetration rate of insurance and growth.
Right, yes, right.
So what is the point is...
If people have something of value to insure, then there's a good correlation that the economy and everything else is growing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that our job as an insurance sector is to make more easy, more accessible the insurance product in order to make growth in American continents. That's our challenge. So in my opinion, the challenge is very huge with a lot of blue ocean, but we need to work all together. So when I talk about AIP, that is this very huge association, I trust in this association because I think that all together we can transform the insurance sector.
Yeah, I want to move to Mexico City and retire in Mexico City. I love Mexico City. I love Latin America. And I want to bring my entrepreneurship down there and I want to do something in that community, right?
Yeah.
Is it a thing where, maybe 5 years ago, and I don't know if we want to put this on the podcast, but like people were worried about government corruption and like all of that. And insurance needs to run on a trust model, right? And when people do you think that's rhetoric that in Latin America, you can't trust these is that just all propaganda? Is that real? Is it something you have to deal with that you have to put into your models? Like, what's the reality?
Yeah, when you talk about government, corruption, I think that there is a topic about...
if you're in Italy, that happens too.
No, but in Latin America, there is a topic about political and economical situation. That's right, in every country. Every country is very different. But Latin American market is very resilient because they can grow with instability, uncertainty about political issue and economical issue.
It's their normal every day.
It's amazing, because as you know, I'm French, I'm from Paris, from a very European guy, but I admire Latin American market because the level of resiliency is very high and the adaptability of the future is wow.
And they haven't had the opportunities of these products making sense to their businesses.
For sure. When we talk, for example, here, there are a lot of startups. We are talking about pivot. Pivot is a change of business model. But Latin American market is always pivot every day because you must to adapt for every risk, every new challenges. So that's amazing. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about the InsurTech Chile, the group that you're part of. What's that called again?
Yeah. If you want, we can talk about it. Because I live in Chile. 4 years ago, we decided to create an association that is InsurTech Chile. So right now, InsurTech Chile is associated.
Why Chile, first of all? Why are you in Chile now? Why is that where you're positioned? Why are you building this this group in Chile? What's special about Chile?
Yeah, because I live in Chile, so I was very connected with InsurTech sector. So we decided to create this association in order to be the interlocutor for the regulators and to co-create with insurance sector, with traditional sector, with brokers in order to create a new way of protection. We did the same 2 years ago in Colombia, and we did the same in Mexico 4 years ago. And right now we are being a very huge association with Argentina. So you can imagine that these 4 countries represent 250 million people,
Right.
$75 billion of GWP, 65% of InsurTech. So the impact you can make is very huge. And altogether, and that is very, for me, is very nice to observe, because we cannot observe that in Europe and the US. The collaboration of Latin American market is very nice, because every insurer, multinational, big player, wants to work with InsurTech in order to co-create, to co-build the protection of the future.
What do you think the challenge for InsurTechs in Latin America is for the next 5 years?
The challenge is financing. Imagine that in the last 3 years, the decrease of financing is of 88%.
We felt that in America, but it's even
But in
stronger.
Latin America, 88%. So in the first semester, only $26 million financed InsurTech in Latin America for the quality for this continent.
For a multi-billion-dollar industry.
So you can imagine that with financing, you can push and to co-create something very, very huge. So the challenge is financing.
What's the government's responsibility? Like, are they leaning all in on InsurTech and insurance as a way to push the middle class?
Yeah. I'm not sure that is a challenge of the government, because for the governments, there are a lot of topics, okay? Social.
Well, I'm talking about, like, in America, things like everything that we're regulated with, all of these things, are they making it easier or harder to get to set these things up properly?
No, but I think that the challenge is to put in the same room regulators, traditional sector, and InsurTech in order to move in the same way. What is the same way? To increase the penetration rate of insurance.
Right.
Because altogether, regulator to protect best the consumer, insurance sector in order to increase the market, InsurTech in order to collaborate with insurance sector. So the challenge is to put in the same room the right people, the stakeholders, in order to change the way to do it. Quite easy.
Yeah, quite easy.
A very huge challenge.
I mean, it's just going to take you 25 years of your life to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Super easy.
Super easy, yeah.
So I guess is there a role in most organizations in Latin America for risk management? Is it a practice? Can you go to school? Is it its own thing that's coming up? Or is it just something someone in a company finds themselves doing, which is not uncommon here either? Is it a practice yet, or is it just an idea at this point?
No, I think it's a practice, but everything takes time.
Yeah.
So be patient.
Be patient. We got the long-term goals. Yeah, I think this was great. Anything that you want to plug or share?
No, I think that for your audience, I think that I would like to share with you that Latin America is a blue ocean with a lot of opportunity. I think that we can have in this continent a lot of impact about people. So I think that my invitation is to go to Latin American market, to enter this market, to enjoy to be with Latin American guys that are amazing guys. So welcome to Latin America. I think that there are a lot of things to do with a very strong impact.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you're building instead of trying to, everyone here is talking about how the insurance industry needs to change.
Yeah.
There you're building it while it's happening.
Yes, and I think that insurance is not only a business. It's an impact about people.
Yes, I agree, totally. Very good. Thank you, man.
Risk Management Brick by Brick is brought to you by TrustLayer. Find out how TrustLayer manages risk so that the people can build the physical world around us. Head over to TrustLayer.io. And then make sure to subscribe to Risk Management Brick by Brick on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. On behalf of the TrustLayer team, thank you for listening.